Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, no more overtime? Okay boss. Whatever you say. Karen wants her breakfast. You want large cups? Sure thing. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. No more overtime? Okay boss. Whatever you say. Years ago, I used to work for a plastic injection company in my hometown. It wasn't a huge company, but they had 2 plants in my state, 2 in 2 other states, 1 in the UK and 1 in Germany. So not small either. It was a 24-hour production facility, which means the machines run 24/7 except from December 23rd to January 2nd. I was one of 2 delivery drivers who moved finished product from the plant to a nearby warehouse and brought raw materials and packaging supplies back to the plant. On a good day, I'd get 4 to 5 back and forth trips done in a 12-hour day. On my last run back to the warehouse, I'd always go around to the floor people and make sure they had what they needed to make it, though the night driver was the only floor position that wasn't 24 hours, so that nothing would shut down. Well, sometimes they would forget something, and after my last run I'd have to go back. I wasn't complaining, I got an hour or 2 of overtime every few shifts and everything ran fine. One day my supervisor pulls me aside and says I need to stop taking overtime. I explain why and he doesn't care. No more overtime. I say okay, and we go on with our day. Near the end of my next shift, I am 15 minutes shy of being able to clock out, and I am just finishing packing up the truck to do the next morning run, when one of the floor people comes over and tells me he forgot something. I say, sorry, no can do. I'm not allowed any more overtime to go and pick up the material. Apparently, if I didn't do it, 3 machines would shut down overnight. If any of you have ever worked in plastic injection, you know those machines get so hot they melt the plastic being injected. If they have no material flowing in them, they have to get shut down or they will get too hot. It can take hours for them to cool down, and they have to be started from a cold state when you go to reboot them. So if it runs out of material, production has to stop. The machines has to take about 10 to 12 hours to cool down and then heat back up. This is all very unfortunate, but I've got to follow orders. So I clock out and go home. The next morning rolls around and I am called into the plant supervisor's office. He is my supervisor's boss, and is one of the owners of the entire company. He is shaking mad, because just as my coworker predicted, 3 machines shut down overnight and were going to be out of commission until nearly 2 p.m. that afternoon. He was going to fire me on the spot but gave me a chance to explain myself. When I told him what I used to do, and what my supervisor had told me to do, he let out a big sigh and told me to go back to the floor, and that if I need to take overtime to keep machines from going offline, to just do it from now on. Shortly after that, my supervisor was called into his office. Now unfortunately, he is the son of one of the other owners, so they didn't fire him, but I never got yelled at about overtime ever again. Edit, I forgot to include the fact that I later found out that my little stunt cost the company something like $3,000 per hour in lost production over the course of like an entire day, because one, the machine's heating coils broke when it cooled down and had to be replaced, so all in all I cost them tens of thousands of dollars. Guess it was easier just to pay me time and a half for a few hours every pay. It's amazing that supervisor didn't understand the consequences of not getting the needed materials. Oh, wait, he was the son of one of the owners. Never mind. Of course he didn't understand, quite possibly never worked a real, as in frontline manufacturing, job in his life, and therefore had absolutely no clue about the consequences of his no more overtime mandate. MC that costs the company big money is the best kind of MC. I think I prefer the fact the mud in this case clearly went back to the source. I love military MC, because nobody is as petty and malicious as a lower rank following a superior officer's orders. However, this is excellent too. That exasperated sigh must have been the most satisfying thing in the world to hear. hopefully they'll learn to trust your judgment a lot more. It wasn't your little stunt, you were following the instructions of your immediate supervisor. If I'm reading this correctly, the only mistake you made was not getting it in writing. Luckily for you, he didn't deny it. Those plastics plants also have technical/troubleshooting fix-it engineers on call 24/7. When they're called in at stupid hours of the night, they're absolutely minting money every second they work, for exactly the reason given. Way cheaper to pay to keep the plant running than to take the hit of stopping. Source: a member of my extended family does this. Sounds like they need to keep some stock at the plant, and only touch it if there is an issue overnight or in getting the delivery. What happens if your truck breaks down, fails a commercial inspection, or there is just a traffic jam or detour? Karen wants her breakfast. I work at a hotel, I'm on the graveyard shift and we have a continental breakfast from 6 to 9, and my shift ends at 7, so I'm in charge of setting up the breakfast. It's not a big deal, it's a smallish hotel and a small breakfast, but we do have waffles and a couple of waffle makers. Basically, guests come in, they get their batter out of a dispenser and make their waffles so they're fresh and hot. We have 2 seasons where I live, winter and construction season, and we get work crews that stay at the hotel on the boss's dime and then go out for whatever job they're working on, and we very frequently get this one crew of guys. They're mostly Mexican, and they're great guys, they're polite and they don't leave the breakfast room a mess, but their shifts start super early in the morning. We also get hunters who are in and out before 6, so I usually have everything set up by 5:30 for them. I say usually because I'm only human, sometimes I'm running late, it happens, but I'm never more than 5 minutes after 6. The workers and the hunters are super chill about it, they get it and don't complain about waiting a couple of extra minutes. I also feel the need to add that the foreman is amongst them, so he's eating when they are. So, one day I'm running a little late, I got caught up with what I was doing and kinda lost track of time, so I was rushing to get everything set up while the guys are patiently waiting in the lobby. In enters Karen, who sees the time, sees the breakfast isn't ready, and decides to yell at me for it, saying that the sign says breakfast is from 6 to 9 and should be started exactly at 6. I tried to keep working while talking to her so I could get the breakfast ready, but she decided that was rude, so I had to stop what I was doing and stand there with her yelling at me until she ran out of breath and I could finish setting up. Karen complains to the manager. I get a verbal warning that I have to have breakfast open by 6, as I was about 15 minutes behind because Karen was yelling at me when I would have been less than 4 if she'd let me finish. Well, Karen was a stayover, and she was in the next day before 6. The manager refunded part of her stay under guest satisfaction, and I think she was hoping to find me doing something wrong so she could get another refund, but I was on my game and had everything set up by 5:30 like usual. She came in before the workers and saw me sitting at the front desk and sneered about me being lazy when I should be setting up breakfast. I told her the breakfast was already ready to go as the construction workers are entering, but I stand and walk over to block the doorway to the breakfast room and told them that I couldn't let them in because the manager said I had to start the breakfast at exactly 6 o'clock, so I couldn't let them back until then, and as I'm saying this I'm looking directly at Karen. Slowly heads turn and Karen goes red, and mutters something about coming back later, and leaves, so I let the guys back. They said it was funny, and like I said, the workers have had to wait a little after 6 before with no problem, and the foreman was there. To be clear, if I thought this stunt was going to cost them their breakfast I never would have done it, but I knew that wasn't gonna be a problem. I didn't see Karen again, so either she didn't come back or she returned after I left, but either way I didn't hear another word from the manager about it. You want your breakfast at 6? You're gonna get your breakfast at 6. The first time I went to a hotel as a child, I remember them saying there would be a free continental breakfast in the morning. I didn't know what a continental breakfast was, but it sure sounded a whole lot fancier than any normal breakfast. I had visions of a vast buffet of gourmet foods. The reality was some raspberry Danish and a miniature box of Rice Krispies. Yep. Continental refers to the European continent and serves to distinguish the breakfast from a full English breakfast. I remember the first time I went to the circus, my mom told me we were going to get souvenirs and refreshments, which sounded really cool. To this day, 40 years later, if I go somewhere with refreshments and souvenirs, I get in line because it always sounds cooler than it is. This is quintessential MC and I love it. Kinda reminds me of every time someone rides up my ass when I'm going 60 miles per hour or higher in a 55 miles per hour zone, so I slow down to exactly 55 and put on the cruise control. We're gonna follow the rules to a T. Guy tailgated me and honked his horn at me when I was doing 20 in an active school zone with a 15 miles per hour limit. I guess he was warning me against going too fast, so I slowed down to 15, then thought that when it comes to children you can never be too careful, so I slowed down even further to 10. The law says I can't drive faster than the speed limit. It doesn't say not to drive slower than it too. Great that the guys were chill and had your back. Always nice to hear about the good guys that are out there too. Yes ma'am, I understand the frustration. I would have been done more than 10 minutes ago, but it seems like getting your word in was more important than getting the breakfast ready. You want large cups? Sure thing. I work at a fast food chain, and for the last 2 weeks we've been out of large glasses for the drinks. I usually inform our clients about it and give them a medium cup. If the client eats in the restaurant, they don't usually have any complaint as they can refill it free of charge. But in the drive-thru I give them the option of having a medium glass and a small one that should be more or less the same volume as a large one. Enter a woman that refused that option and insisted on the fact that as she was paying for a large meal with a large cup, she wanted a large cup. Absolutely fair. I told her again that we're out of large cups, and she responded by saying that's not her problem. At that moment my manager tells me to just give her the drink in extra large cups, 0.75L, that we don't usually give them as an option because we don't have as many of those as medium or small ones, and I tell her. She then has no problem with getting more than she paid for and is happy with the result. Cut to the moment where I'm serving her order and my coworker tells me that the extra large cups don't fit in the cup holders we give when there's more than one drink, and she had 4 extra large drinks. I simply answer with a "that's not my problem" and begin giving the woman the drinks, and I see her struggling with how to manage the drinks and asks for a cup holder. I respond by saying that the extra large cups don't fit in one but the medium and small ones do. Given the earlier blowback, I would have just given her a cup holder and let her discover they don't fit. You should have carefully filled the XL cup to the same volume as the large one has. Why is my cup only 3/4 full? Because you ordered a large meal, not an XL meal. Alternatively, fill it all the way to the brim, requiring it to be kept perfectly level with no jostling, to avoid a spill. People seem to be forgetting that malicious compliance doesn't always have to make you happy. LOL, I laughed out loud at this and I haven't even read any other comments to know the context for your comment. I can hardly wait, but needed to thank you for making me laugh. This may be my inner Karen coming out, but I always find it irritating when a business has a problem on their end and their only solutions are things that are less convenient for me instead of them. If you've been out of cups for 2 weeks, surely your bosses should have at least tried to come up with an option that's better than everyone gets 2 cups. What about offering to sell her medium meals with free upgrades on the fries so that she gets all of the food she wants, with less soda, but pays less as a result? Or clearly offer a choice between more cups which fit in cup holders versus fewer cups which don't, so at least they get to make the choice in an informed way. Or determine if you have other boxes or bags that you use that will hold the extra large cups with at least a little stability so they're less likely to roll around and spill in the car. This reminds me, long time ago, at IKEA restaurant they charged empty glasses refill. It was expensive immo. At first I was pissed off, but later I cool myself because I know I want to eat there again and I never did. How long does it take to get more cups? Doesn't every restaurant get weekly shipments of food and supplies? Is there a shortage company-wide of large cups? What was her response to that sentence at the end? Finish the story. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.